morning, everybody. This is a Loopy project guy to give you the latest update on the off-the-grid cabin. And last time we talked about the solar power system, electrical system, and how it's all been hooked up. This morning we're going to shift gears and get into some of the finer details of the finish out and how that's coming along. But first, as always, we're going to say good morning to our supervisor, and we have a couple of whitetails out here watching the progress as we go. Come on in, Risa. You want some corn, girl? Say hello to Risa and her little friend. Come on, girl. Yeah, the whitetail are abundant here in the hill country, and we have several axis and Seika as well. There you go. So this one is Risa. So she's a sweet little girl, a yearling that likes to come and eat corn on a frequent basis, and some of her friends coming out to enjoy it as well. You enjoy that? That a girl. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye to them temporarily while we get back to the project at hand. And as always, here's Wiley on standby and supervisory duties. For some reason, he doesn't chase a deer, so we do appreciate that. So the cabin is coming along really well. We've completed all the outdoor siding now, and a lot of the key utilities are being installed. You'll remember access to the cabin is through this little step up. We did install a little higher safety guard rail cable. It sort of mixes in with the cabin, has that industrial look to it, provides an extra layer of safety for the little ones while not blocking the view. So that turned out nice. Let's get into the water system. So the water system I ran all with PEX tubing. You'll see that the PEX is ran throughout the cabin. When installing PEX, it's really important to understand which fittings you're going to use, because it may be a slightly different PEX pipe or connection type depending on the fitting. Here you can purchase, this is called the crimp fittings, and you can purchase these off of Amazon or your local hardware store, wherever. And they're probably the simplest and least expensive. There's just a little tool that actually pinches these couplings down over the PEX connections and gives you the final seal for the water line to the particular fittings that you're connecting to. So those all go in fairly quickly. One thing to keep in mind, though, is these crimp fittings do have a fair degree of pressure drop through them. So if you have long water lines to run, you may want to go with a size larger than you might otherwise. In this case, we had quite short runs, so I've gone with the 1/2-inch fittings throughout the system. And you can see I've got my lines ran to my shower here. I'll put in the mixing valve shortly and the head. And all of those I ordered the crimp fitting connections on those different utilities. This is a water line going to the toilet, which will be connected here. These are the two water lines coming into the sink. And of course, we'll have valves connected on each of those. These are the water lines coming to my outdoor kitchen. You may wonder, well, what are these lines coming down and connecting to into the wall here? Well, what those go to is another shower mixing valve that sits out here. Here's a valve. We'll have the shower head coming out up top here, and this will serve the purpose of having a novelty of a nice outdoor shower that will be completed with the project. So as we go make our way into the utility room, we see our little friend watching our video from a distance there. We come on into the utility room, you'll see the water system and how it's come together. Down here is a water pump. We'll have a line coming in through the floor from a water tank that's in rain capture, feeding the water pump. The water pump then feeds a pressure tank, and then the line feeds into a filtration system These filter cartridges can house micron filters as well as charcoal filters. We don't have chemicals in the water here, so we'll primarily be focusing on particles. And then for rain capture, probably the most important element of a water system is your UV light, which kills all of your bacteria. So after the water goes through the filtration system, you see a T here with one water line coming into this propane water heater. And haven't tried this water heater yet. We'll see how it works, but we've got a big propane tank sitting outside that will provide the firing heat source for this unit. The water will come out hot then and feed into the distribution system for our water lines that I showed you a moment ago throughout the cabin. Okay, so that's the water system all installed. As I mentioned, I have yet to put in the tank and the water line to the pump, but it's all coming along nicely. The electrical system, you may have noticed the inverters are a little bit different than my last video, and that's because we had problems with those inverters and we had to get a new set from the manufacturer, which are all working fine now and doing their job. You'll see here we have light, solar powered light in our utility room, and I'll show you some of the other fixtures as we go through the house. So the other thing we've been spending a lot of time on in the cabin is the trim out in the last couple of weeks. And we're going to go back inside the cabin here to have a little look at how that's progressing. You notice that I have these two windows blocked. That's because we ordered those windows a couple of months ago. They still haven't arrived. We have installed, however, the main door entering the cabin, a full light door. So we still have a very nice view when looking out the cabin. We come inside, you see the trim out is just about complete in the living room here. So a few features of this finish out, turn on the light where you can see it a bit better, is we've done a lot to reclaim a lot of wood from the old ranch house on the property. And this beautiful old wood came out of that ranch house, and this wood is actually about 100 years old. So very well preserved, very nice, and finished out the living area beautifully. We've also installed a barn door, they call it. So one of these sliding doors. This was the old external kitchen door on the old ranch house. We just bought the hardware from a Home Depot type facility and installed the door, and it really finished out nicely and gives it a neat old look. What this offers is air conditioner that's running in here. It gives a nice feed louver to take air into the bedroom and cool it off. So this room is just about finished out and complete, with the exception of the two windows and a little bit of tidy up on it. Also, you'll notice in here we went with a tin roof, and this roofing came off of the old goat shed next to the ranch house. So in this particular room, we put the cleaner side facing down. In a moment, you'll see in the bedroom, we flipped it over and put the tarnished side down to give it a little bit more character, and it does make the bedroom a little darker, which is fine because it's primarily room for sleeping in. So we'll now enter the bedroom, and again, we're waiting for a window to come in. But we got all this beadboard, it's called, out of the ranch house, a really interesting teal looking color here. And may be kind of difficult to see as dark as it is in here, but you may be able to see the ceiling and the old rusty look of the ceiling. The other thing that we're toying with the idea, if we look back at the wall in the living area, the wood is a very interesting looking wood on the back side of it as well. And the question is, do we finish it out with the teal beadboard or just leave the back of this wall exposed? Since it's not an external wall, we're not worried about insulation. It's a small enough area, we're not worried about noise traveling through the wall either. So we may choose to just leave that open and install the bunk beds with it as it is shown. So that's a little bit on the trim out, how that's going along. The final thing I thought I'd show you in this particular video was the installation of the air conditioning unit. We went with it's called a Robson mini split, and this is a small unit. When it's running full out, it's only drawing about 800 watts, which is a good thing for our solar power, that we don't have extreme draw. So at the moment it's running, it cools this room off in the bedroom very easily and very quickly. In about 10 minutes it's down to temperature. Again, focusing on insulation in the ceiling and the walls to make sure that it really holds that temperature in the building nicely without using a lot of energy. You'll also notice that I've got some vent holes up high. This vent hole goes into the utility room, or that goes into the bathroom. So this individual mini split will cool off those two rooms as well. I've got them blocked off at the moment until I have those finished in as well. The mini split itself is fairly simple to put in, just requires a few little tools that you might have to buy, like a vacuum pump and some pressure gauges, but instructions are simple. It takes a little time. It took me about 3 hours to put this particular unit in, and it went really well, and it's doing the job nicely. So that's a tour of what we've completed up till now in our off-the-grid cabin. I'm going to show you the outside unit of the air conditioner really quickly. Here it is, and again, really easy to install. I set on a few cinder blocks to give it a secure foundation, and the piping from the indoor unit to the outdoor unit runs through the utility room and then goes under the cabin, and this helps to preserve that piping and keep it out of the sunlight to prevent damage to the insulation. Okay, so that's where we're at with the project, folks. It's going really well. You may be asking yourselves, well, gosh, that's quite a lot of work, and that's a lot to be done. What in the world is this thing costing you? Well, we've invested about $34,000 into this project at the moment, and of course all the trim wood was free to us, and that it came off that old ranch house. If we had to go and purchase these trim boards and all the materials at a hardware store, it'd probably add another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to the project. But we were fortunate that we had that hardware source available to us right here on the property. So we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I hope you have a blessed day. And we're going to leave you with saying goodbye to Mr. Wiley and taking a nice, beautiful view of the Guadalupe River Valley.